We go again. The fight nobody wants to see. Yes, Deontay Wilder is looking to take on Wilder-Ortiz. The date has been the date has changed so much. I don't even know if this fight's going to happen. I mean, it was told September. Now we're here in November. Someone's telling me it could be in January. So we don't know, you know. Deontay Wilder has announced. He put it on his Instagram a while ago. I haven't really had the time to really look at this, but I looked at it properly now, and he's announced that he will fight in a rematch of the Cuban veteran Wilder-Ortiz. Despite calls from Joshua's camp to make the undisputed, that's not going to happen. Like Joshua's going to fight Ruiz. Wilder I think he was already going to look to fight Wilder-Ortiz. And it was already booked on, I think, on BoxRec as well. So that was interesting. Wilder wrote on social media, "To all my fans, I have to announce that Wilder-Ortiz and I have signed for a rematch with a date and site to be announced shortly. All my controversial fights must be dealt with ASAP." When they fought in 2018, Wilder dropped Ortiz in the 5th round before nearly being stopped himself during a very rough 7th round. And then he stopped Ruiz in the 10th. This little narrative that Wilder's trying to go with is he's going to fight Ortiz and Fury because those were the two controversial fights that happened, and he wants to sort it out. That's the sole reason he's taking the fight. No, it's not. The sole reason you're taking the fight is because Al Heyman, who's in charge of Wilder-Ortiz and Deontay Wilder, Al Heyman has spoken to Ortiz. Now, you guys will remember that Ortiz was looking to fight Joshua. Joshua sent him a very, very, very good offer. I think it was 6 million, 7 million. And Ortiz's team, his team, which is his team and Al Heyman, declined it, thinking, yeah, we're going to drag it on, get some more money, right? Now, looking back to what Andy Ruiz just did, I'm sure Ortiz is pinching himself and slapping himself because, yeah, idiot. Yeah, idiot, man. You understand? To get that happen to you. Just a idiot. You understand? So, that was poor management from his team, because he could have easily took that. He's not going to get... I mean, in the last fight against Wilder, I think he got about 900,000, maybe just less than that, 700,000. So he was never going to get that money. But we know Al Heyman and his people are quite deluded when it comes to getting deals anyway. Because they're very... Al Heyman does everything. He's in charge, the real OG in their team. But getting to the point, Wilder-Ortiz needs a big fight. So I'm assuming Al Heyman said to him, you know what, forget Joshua. I'm going to promise you, you're going to fight Wilder. Because why would Wilder rematch Ortiz? There is no substance in it. Do you understand? It doesn't make no sense, because Wilder's saying, look, I need to fix all the fights. People said I got hurt in the 7th round, so I want to clear it up. That doesn't make no sense. I mean, look, Ortiz hurt him, to get it twisted, but nothing to warrant a rematch. Yes, Fury beat you, and you drew with him, so that deserves a rematch. Very controversial. But why would you rematch someone because you got hurt? I mean, that's like Anthony Joshua rematching Dillian White after their first fight because he rocked him in the 2nd round. Does that mean you should just rematch him straight away? That doesn't make no sense. Does that make sense? Like, it makes no logical sense. All rematches have a reason. David Haye, Tony Bellew. David Haye, stupid leg, Achilles, whatever, bust up. Tony Bellew struggled to knock him out. Took him 11 rounds. Got stopped, got saved by the towel. Controversial. What would happen if his leg was... He won the first 5 rounds. What would happen after his leg was bust? Questions. Rematch. Where else was Tony Bellew going to go? He had nowhere else to go. He had to... Because the money was good as well. Pay-per-view. The money was good. When the money's talking and it was controversial, rematches sell. You get what I'm saying? Dillian White, Derek Chisora, split decision win. Many people thought that Derek Chisora won, but it was a tough fight. Derek Chisora knocked out Takam. Dillian White defeated Joseph Parker on a very, very, very good pay-per-view show that everyone watched. Ultimately makes sense. Rematch, that sold, did great pay-per-view buys. Great. This fight, I'm telling you, will not be on pay-per-view. Deontay Wilder, his Wilder-Ortiz will not be on pay-per-view. I'm telling you that for a fact, because it won't sell. It's not even going to sell. Deontay Wilder didn't even do that well against Brazil, which wasn't pay-per-view. because they've already got themselves allegedly signed up for Fury next, I'm assuming that, you know, that Al Heyman's going to say to Wilder, look, you're going to fight Fury after Ortiz. Well, he don't mind him fighting Ortiz because let's say Ortiz knocks out Wilder, Ortiz will fight Fury. The money's still there for the Fury fight. That's not going anywhere. So Al Heyman doesn't mind not putting Ortiz and Wilder not on pay-per-view because he's got Fury, that big fight happening, contracted next. Allegedly, we don't know this is fact. I mean, we've heard different things. We've heard Fury say, yes, it's happening in February. We've heard Wilder say, we don't know yet. We've heard this, we've heard that. So we don't know, but I'm pretty sure that Fury that rematch is going to happen next year, early next year, right? Right, cool. So now let's look at why this fight is a fight nobody wants to see. Because some people are going to go in my comments and say, you're a hater. Well, it was a great fight last fight, you know, and why not? Why not play it again? Ortiz is going to beat him. It's going to be even more even. No, it's not. The first fight was interesting to watch because Ortiz, even though I knew Ortiz was going to lose and I predicted and I knew he was going to lose to Wilder, I thought Wilder would. He's a very tricky southpaw. We've seen tricky southpaws like Spilker give Wilder trouble, and Ortiz has much more power than Spilker, seems more raw, and better boxer. So I expect it to be a very difficult fight for Wilder because we know Wilder, obviously his weakest asset is he can't box. Long range, short range, you never seen him box, you know, in the inside. Wilder doesn't know how to box. Do you understand? We know this. This isn't easy news. Now, Deontay Wilder defeated Luis Ortiz via 10th round knockout. 2018, the 3rd of the 3rd, March the 3rd, right? Cool. 10th round, Barclays Center. See, then his next fight was against Raven what's his name? Raven Kajunu, whatever his name is, Kajunu. 18th for the 7th, 28th for the 7th, right? In the Staples Center, was on an undercard or something. Struggled to knock out struggled. Took him, I think, 10 rounds, and it was a 10-round fight. Struggled. Didn't look that impressive. Bit sloppy. But then again, he's coming from a knockdown from Wilder, so he gave him a chance. He fights Travis Kaufman. KO win. Struggles in that fight. Gets the KO, but it's a very, very... And I think that fight took a couple rounds as well to get the KO. Next fight, Christian Hammer. So he's now had 2 knockout fights since the Wilder fight against 2 guys that are not in the top 15 heavyweights. Struggled to knock them out, but got the job done. Fights Christian Hammer, who has lost several fights to Fury, to Povetkin, to many people. He's just, you understand, 5 KO, he's been KO'd 5 times. Lost 5, I think he's been KO'd 3 times, lost 5 times, I think. But whatever, 24, that's his record. Ortiz goes the distance with him, gets the win. So Ortiz's last 3 fights have been against bums, basically, who are not in the top 20. And he struggled, and he's taken him a while to get his drive and to take them out. That's a fact. Styles make fights, I know. But prior to the Wilder fight, let's look at Ortiz's record. KO Daniel Martz, KO Dave Allen, beat Malik Scott, and KO Tony Thompson, KO'd Bryant Jennings. What was everyone saying? Boogeyman. Boogeyman. The most avoided man. Dillian White stuck in him. Joshua stuck in him. Boogeyman. Boogeyman. What happened? Got knocked out by Wilder. Hurt Wilder. He's still good. He's still good. Fights 4 bum struggles. Now he deserves a world title shot? Listen, that ain't by choice. He hasn't looked good in his last fights. He's not a big name. He doesn't even speak English. He's not a big sell. Maybe he was before the Wilder fight because people were intrigued. Ortiz was the boogeyman, but now we know he ain't the boogeyman. I've been saying for ages, he's a fake boogeyman. Ortiz is alright. His best win is against Brian Jennings and Malik Scott. Brian Jennings lost to Joe Joyce. Good fighter, don't get twisted, but he's not that good of a boxer. Doesn't know how to use his long reach. Lost to Oscar Rivas. Oscar Rivas beaten by Dillian White. Brian Jennings beaten by Joe Joyce. Malik Scott knocked out by Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora knocked out cold by Dillian White. But Ortiz is the boogeyman, remember? Remember, he's a boogeyman. Dillian White's best win on his record, Joseph Parker. Former world champion, WBO world champion, where it took age of the distance, only lost to 2 guys. Ortiz's best win on the record, I'm going to say, is Bryant Jennings. Bryant Jennings lost to Vladimir Klitschko. Bryant Jennings lost to Oscar Rivas. Bryant Jennings lost to Joe Joyce. Prior to the Ortiz fight, he just lost to Vladimir Klitschko. So I understand that it's a good win. But looking back on the resume, because resumes are all about looking back. When your time is done, then look back on your resume. He is not the boogeyman, all right? I'm just going to classify that and get that out of the way. So, but don't get to I rate Ortiz. This is not an Ortiz hate video. I rate Ortiz. This is much Wilder's fault. It's Ortiz and Al Heyman's. But I just think this fight is irrelevant to the heavyweight division. Do you understand? If he shocks me and defeats Wilder, that shows how poor Wilder is. Because he must have... I've seen things in the Brazil fight that I think Wilder has improved. And he's known that after the Fury fight, you got lucky. So now you've got to be technically... You understand? Move, sort yourself out. So, he's now defeated 3 bums since losing to Wilder. And he's got a world title shot. Dillian White has been number 1 for 600 days. He never got a world title shot. But that's here, neither here or there. We already know that the WBC is corrupt. So, Wilder said, I'll whoop Ortiz even quicker. And he says he'll KO Fury in dynamic fashion. Let's hear this. We move on to Ortiz first. And after I whip Ortiz in great fashion and quicker fashion, I will come back and get old Tyson Fury and knock him out in dynamic fashion. Wilder's eyes are being on the undisputed champion of his weight class. What else has he said? Fury has slated. He's slated Fury on his comeback for fighting bums. Hardy Dardy's there, we know that, and nothing really changes. So listen, Wilder is looking to face Ortiz. I think Eddie Hearn said the fight might not happen because the Fury fight makes more money and they don't want to risk it. I think Al Heyman knows that there's a big compared to when they first fought each other now, there's an even greater chance that Wilder will knock out Ortiz in earlier, in probably worse fashion. Let's be honest. Who was Ortiz KO'd in top since fighting? Wilder has knocked down Fury, and in that Fury fight, he's got more in that Fury fight than he has in his last 38 fights fighting bums, right? Right. Because even in the Brazil fight, we saw that Wilder was throwing body shots. Clear, good body shots to the liver. Interesting. He was patient against Brazil. And that's how he knocked out Brazil cold. Because he was patient, right? So, because he was patient and he was taking his time. Don't get me twisted, he was patient against Ortiz in the first fight. Because everyone was hyping up Ortiz. Boogeyman, this and that. So naturally, Wilder was just patient because he didn't know what Ortiz bring to the table. Now he knows that he cannot put Ortiz down. He will defeat him worse fashion. Trust me. That's how rematches usually go. The same way... which example was I going to use? The same way that when he fought Stavern, he knocked him out. Okay, I know Stavern was out of shape, but in those 2 years since he had the first fight of Wilder, what did he do? I mean, Ortiz hasn't really been that active fighting good guys, has he? Not really, no. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't care. If I miss it, I ain't going to lose sleep missing it. I would rather... And this isn't about, Ortiz being a poor fighter. It's that I've seen him fight Wilder. I was intrigued to see him fight Joshua because I thought that would have been an interesting fight. I would have liked to see Ortiz fight Dillian White. I think he would give him a tricky fight. That would be a tough fight. Or Ortiz fight... the man just fighting... He hasn't really fought anybody for me to say he's the boogeyman. No one's avoiding him because of his skill. People are avoiding him because he's not really a cash cow. He doesn't speak English. He's not... You know what I'm saying? Why take the risk? But listen, that fight... I might as well do my prediction now about that fight because I'm not really that interested in that fight that much. But I'll do it later on actually because it only makes sense. Because this is the heavyweight channel. We're gonna every heavyweight fight, whether it's interesting or not, I'm gonna operate on it. But listen, this is just a video to let you guys know that as long as this fight could be happening soon, I expect Wilder to knock him out, and I think it's not an interesting fight. And I think Ortiz is the fake boogeyman. I think after Ortiz loses to Wilder back to back, he hasn't really got anywhere to go, and he needs to humble himself and stick to fighting the Travis, the Christian Hammers of the world. But he still gives any guy in the top 15 trouble. He's just not fighting them. He had a chance to fight Joshua. I do not understand this thing about Ortiz the boogeyman. He had several offers to fight White. White said, let's fight, when he went to fight the headline in December, before the Chisora fight was confirmed. What did Ortiz say? Oh, fight me on the undercard of Wilder. Why would you fight on the undercard if you could be fighting on pay-per-view in England? It doesn't make no sense. Again, Al Heyman's got him on a leash. I don't think Ortiz is scared of White. It's just that Al Heyman's got him on a leash. No, don't fight him. I promise you Wilder soon. Soon. Could have fought White when White was about to fight Parker. It was between Ortiz and Pulev. I know White declined the Pulev IBF route because Pulev was throwing silly money. And to be honest, who would you rather fight? Pay-per-view, Joseph Parker, or Pulev in Bulgaria for peanuts? You understand? So he declined Pulev, but there was Ortiz. They said to Ortiz, look, we'll fight you. Can you put on the contract that we're going to have Wilder? No response from Ortiz. So Ortiz no one's avoiding Ortiz. People have tried to fight him. He is just been spooked by Al Heyman. Because even when Ortiz was with, you've got all Ortiz's interesting fights and kind of the Dave Angler fight. They were when he was with Matchroom. With Al Heyman, the biggest fight he's had was Bryant Jennings. And since then he's fought Christian Hammer and this and that. So again, the big fights ain't there for Ortiz, and he's not getting any younger. You know, I mean, the guy could be. We don't know how old he is. We don't know how old he is. Probably the same age as Samuel Peter. We don't know. But I'm out, guys. I'm out. I'm talking too much. It's over.